Hello, and welcome to this month's Lunch and Learn on improving sleep from A to Z. My name is Allison Knight, and I am the on-site health coach for Employee Health Center. So we all know that sleep is essential for good health. Or maybe this isn't something we know, but we're starting to find out more and more how much lack of sleep is linked with an increased risk for certain health conditions, chronic illness, and inflammation. Now, sleep is important because while we sleep, the body actually repairs itself, it regulates and releases hormones, and it helps with overall normal daily function. Now, the average adult needs 7 to 9 hours of sleep. 1/3 of American adults do not get enough sleep. They find that anything below 7 hours of sleep can be detrimental to one's health. And on the flip side, that more than 9 hours of sleep can actually have a negative effect as well. They've seen studies for women in particular with more calcification and an increased risk in heart disease if they get more than 9 hours of sleep a night. So that window of 7 to 9 hours is really key. So let's talk a little bit about the sleep cycles. What is sleep? So there's two types of sleep. There's non-REM sleep and there's REM sleep. So non-REM sleep is deep or slow wave sleep, and it actually occurs in 4 stages. You spend about 5 to 15 minutes in each of these stages. So in stage 1, there's about a 50% reduction in activity from your awake state, and you usually spend about 5 to 10 minutes in this state. This is typically the first stage we enter when we fall asleep, and if you are woken up in that first 5 to 10 minutes of when you fall asleep, you might feel like you didn't actually fall asleep. Then stage 2 comes about, and this is light sleep. Muscle contraction and relaxation occurs, and if you look on a sleep graph, you will see peaks and valleys in brain activity. After stage 2, stage 3 occurs, and this is that slow wave deep sleep. This is when our body repairs itself, it builds tissues, and it strengthens the body. We get the most of this before the age of 30. We get about 2 hours of restorative sleep. And as we age, people over the age of 65 get only about 30 minutes of restorative sleep. And after stage 3, stage 4 is just a more intense, slow wave, deep sleep. Now, the way that the sleep cycle works, the stages then repeat backwards to 3 and 2, and then enter REM, which is rapid eye movement sleep. So this occurs about 90 minutes after sleep onset. Typically, the first period lasts only about 10 minutes, and then recurring periods of REM sleep after we've transitioned back into that non-REM go through stages 2, 3, 4, 3, 2 REM sleep. Those can get longer and longer until we're about up to an hour of REM sleep. This is when we typically have intense dreaming and we see increased brain activity. This can also be called a paradoxal sleep because in this state, even though there's intense brain activity seen on the graphs, there's actually paralysis of the major voluntary muscle groups. So we're unable to move voluntarily, but there's a ton going on in our brain. This too, we see most REM sleep occur in infants, and as we age, that percentage continues to decline. And so when we're older, you might say, okay, well, we don't spend a lot of time in deep sleep and we don't spend a lot of time in REM. We really spend more time in that light sleep. So we aren't getting as restorative sleep or as much brain functioning activity in our sleep once we reach a certain age. And if you look below, you can kind of see what our brain waves look like in those different stages of waking versus light sleep versus REM and dreaming sleep versus slow wave and deep sleep. So now that we kind of know the different stages of sleep and how it works, we want to take a look at chronic health conditions and sleep duration. So the darker teal color is not enough sleep. So it's less than 7 hours of sleep a night. And the lighter blue color is sufficient sleep, enough sleep, or more than 7 hours. So you can see that regardless, there's obviously still a number of percents for each of them, and some of them have a wider gap than others. But you can see across the board that there is evidence and research that not getting enough sleep, getting less than 7 hours of sleep, has an impact on some of these chronic illnesses or conditions. So you're at a higher risk for a heart attack, coronary heart disease, stroke, all heart related or artery related. There's a pretty significant difference between those who are getting enough sleep versus those who are not for asthma and COPD, so respiratory. Smaller gap for cancer, pretty high gap for arthritis, depression, which is not surprising, and then chronic kidney disease and diabetes. So obviously you can see that it is impacting your risk for certain illnesses and chronic conditions. So let's take a look specifically at sleep and heart disease. So insufficient sleep, so not enough sleep, or irregular sleep. So whether that means you're not getting enough in general, or you're not having consistent sleep. You're waking up a lot, you're not falling asleep, those types of things. When this occurs, our body sends out more stress hormones. So for example, cortisol is a stress hormone. So your body has higher levels of cortisol in it. It also has more fatty plaque accumulation in our arteries. And this is one of the things that continues to build up and leads to heart disease. On top of that, when we're not getting that deep sleep, where we're having that restorative process, we can see more inflammation because inflammatory substances are activated, and this then perpetuates that. Furthermore, hypertension is also strongly linked to heart disease, and if sleep problems are occurring, they can lead to blood pressure remaining higher for longer periods of time. Normally, when we enter that deep sleep, our heart rate and our blood pressure go down. But if we are waking up frequently or we're up later because of insomnia, then our blood pressure is remaining higher for a longer period of time. And that can impact to chronic hypertension or high blood pressure, which can then impact your risk for heart disease. And sleep apnea, let's see if this link will work. It will not. So apparently this link no longer works. Sleep apnea is something that you might have, and the STOP-BANG stands for snoring, overweight or obesity. There's certain things to look at, and you can take the test. If you search STOP-BANG on the internet, you can take the test to check yourself and see if you potentially have it, and then speak with a healthcare provider or someone at the clinic. But certain chemicals are released that prevent that heart rate and blood pressure from lowering. And again, if you're having issues, you're stopping breathing, you're more likely to wake up, you're more likely to have that irregular sleep, and that can impact your risk of heart disease as well. So now let's take a look at another big chronic condition in the United States. So sleep and diabetes type 2. So again, insufficient or irregular sleep can throw those hormones off. When we're not getting that deep restorative sleep, hormone regulation is thrown off. This means that less insulin is released because insulin is the hormone that our pancreas releases to help regulate our blood sugar. So if less insulin is released, then there's a more chance that there's going to be a buildup of blood sugar there's going to be a buildup of sugar in our bloodstream. On top of that, because we're not getting enough sleep, again, more stress hormones are released. And if we look at the hormone cortisol, cortisol actually renders insulin less effective. So not only are we not releasing as much insulin as needed, but the insulin we are releasing might not be rendered as effective either. And as a result, sugar continues to build up in the bloodstream. On top of that, so beyond just the scientific facts, sleep deprivation actually has been shown to increase your appetite, particularly for simple carbohydrates, so white bread, white pasta, and simple sugars or added sugars found in energy drinks or candy bars. And it actually decreases our satiety. So we are hungrier, and it actually takes more to fill us up as well. And on top of that, it leads to a lack of exercise because when we're tired, we really don't feel like doing anything extra. We don't feel like going to the gym or moving or taking a walk because we're tired. So it's all kind of a catch-22. And those things, an increased appetite and lack of exercise then lead to a buildup of blood sugar, of sugar in our bloodstream, and overweight or obesity, which is a huge risk factor in diabetes. Sleep and disease kind of in general. So they have found a link between lack of sleep and some cancers, particularly in shift workers. There's an increase in breast and prostate cancer. They believe that suppression of melatonin may affect important biological functions, and so melatonin being the hormone that regulates our natural sleep cycle or our circadian rhythm. And if you're a shift worker and you're working, not that normal 8 to 4 or 9 to 5, or you're working shifts all over the place, that can throw that out of whack because you're not seeing the sun naturally or normally. So they have seen that that's linked to certain cancers, as well as gastrointestinal problems. So the sleep cycle disturbance may also cause gastrointestinal issues. Shift workers are more commonly diagnosed with peptic ulcer disorder or disease, and they also seem to have more cases of GERD and IBS, so gastrointestinal reflux disease, and irritable bowel syndrome, so again, diseases and chronic conditions of our GI tract. And those who suffer from insomnia in particular report issues of the GI tract 3 times more than those who do not. So it's obviously playing a significant role in these types of things. Now, sleep and sickness, and this is especially interesting right now with everything going on. So immune function. We've talked about that restorative sleep, that deep sleep, that stage 3 and 4. Sleep deprivation, if we're not reaching that, increases those inflammatory mediators, and it increases our infection rate. So early studies have shown that there's a decrease in infection resistance, meaning our body is not as able to fight it off because of a increased inflammatory risk and a decrease in immune function. As far as the common cold, a study showed participants who slept less than 7 hours, remember that's insufficient sleep, were 3 more times likely to display symptoms of a cold. And in addition, those who actually got better quality sleep, so they weren't waking up as much, they got that deeper sleep, had less cases of colds as well. This is just an interesting little graph. So sleep protects against the common cold. Your chances of catching a cold when exposed to the virus. So if you were getting more than 7 hours of sleep, only 17.2% of those people caught a cold versus if you're getting less than 5 hours of sleep, 45.2. So those numbers are staggering. So how can you get better sleep? One of the best things you can do is stick to a routine, trying to have a set bedtime and wake up time every day, even on the weekends. This helps regulate your body's internal clock, its circadian rhythm, so that it knows when it's time to get ready for bed and when it's time to wake up. Exercise daily. So moderate to vigorous exercise in particular can help you sleep better. You're exerting your body, you're getting rid of some energy, especially if you go outside, get some fresh air, get some vitamin D, sunlight. But you do want to be careful and you don't want to exercise too close to bedtime because that can actually make it harder to sleep. Generally, a good rule of thumb is 2 hours, at least 2 hours before sleep. Avoid napping. So this can be a hard one for some people, but as much as possible, avoid napping, especially in the afternoon. If you're going to nap, trying not to nap any later than 2. And if you're going to nap, really only doing like a power nap and only napping about 20 minutes. Again, this can throw off your cycle if you sleep too late or you sleep too long. Then when it actually is bedtime, your body isn't tired. Get some sun. So using sunlight to wake up in the morning, if you can, open those shades and get outside during the day as best as you can. Go for a walk, go to building to building, because again, that's what naturally sets our circadian rhythm. That's what makes us aware of, okay, it's time to wake up, it's time to go to sleep. Setting the mood, so you want a good sleep environment. They suggest a cool environment somewhere between 60 and 70 degrees, dark. If you're a shift worker, or if for some reason you're sleeping during the day, blackout curtains are great, and quiet. So I suggest earplugs, or you could use a face mask if you don't want to buy blackout curtains. Try using earplugs, face masks, and a fan or some type of white noise machine to help create the perfect sleep space. We always have a fan going constantly, even in the winter, just for that white noise. Choose comfort, so have a mattress and pillows and blankets that you find comfortable and supportive. It's good to note that the typical lifespan of a mattress is about 9 to 10 years. After that, you should try to get a new one so that it's giving you the right support. Try different types of pillows. I recently switched to a foam pillow with support for my neck, and I sleep better with that than a regular pillow. The right support can help you fall asleep faster and stay asleep. So limit alcohol, caffeine, and cigarettes. So all of these contain stimulants. It's best to avoid these at least 2 to 3 hours before bed. And now you might think, oh, when I have a drink or two, I sleep better, or I fall asleep easier might be the better term. Because you might fall asleep better, but you typically do not sleep. It's not good quality sleep. And you might wake up more frequently, and you might not enter those crucial stages that we need every night either. Large meals can also make it harder to fall asleep, so trying to avoid a large meal shortly before bedtime. If you are hungry, try a light snack 45 minutes before bed. Avoiding blue screens before bed. So this is a new world problem. Our phones, our tablets, our laptops, the TV, those all are blue lights or bright lights that can confuse that natural sleep cycle, especially when we're doing these right before bedtime. So turning the TV off, putting the computer away, and putting your phone away at least an hour before bed, which can then lead into creating a relaxing bedtime routine. Do something that's not technology related, preferably not alcohol related, because again, we're trying to limit that you find relaxing. So maybe that's taking a hot shower, having a cup of tea, doing some light stretching, trying some deep breathing or meditation, reading, listening to some calming music, sitting in a dark room, whatever you find relaxing that's really healthy for you and helps you unwind. Try doing that right before bedtime to minimize your thoughts and cut down on the chance of lying awake trying to fall asleep. So how to relax fast, scientific ways to distress within 5 minutes. So we have binaural beats. So these you have to listen through headphones, because what they're doing is they're sending 2 different sound waves through each ear, and it actually stimulates the brain waves to mimic that of those first stages of sleep. So there's science behind why listening to these help you relax. Progressive muscle relaxation, so squeezing, releasing, and repeating through different muscle groups can help your body release tension. Nature observation, so watching a plant or animal, noticing how relaxed they are, petting your dog, I would say, or animal, cat. Deep breathing, again, the power of deep breathing is minimized, I think. It's underrated. The power of your breath is pretty amazing. Mental imagery, so guided imagery. You can look up those meditations. Body scan, thinking of every part of your body one by one, listening or looking for any body sensations you may feel. Punching things, again, this helps you let stress out, but not too close to bedtime. And journaling. So writing down how you're feeling, keeping a gratitude journal, thinking about all the things that you're thankful for. These can all help you relax fast. So I do have some relaxation techniques here. Progressive muscle relaxation, a lead PMR, a lead deep breathing exercise, and a lead guided imagery. I can put the links in the description box. If you can't fall asleep within 20 to 30 minutes though, it's actually good to move to a quiet, low lit space and do something relaxing until you feel tired. And if you continue to struggle with sleep, please talk with your primary care provider. So I am going to try to open this deep breathing one. Let's see. Okay, so this one does work. So the other one just doesn't work.
One of the great challenges in this world is knowing enough about a subject to think you're right.
There we go.
To begin, touch the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth, just above the teeth. Touch it only lightly, and keep it there throughout the exercise. When you hear this sound, inhale through your nose. This will be for 4 seconds. When you hear this sound, hold your breath. This will be for 7 seconds. When you hear this sound, exhale through your mouth, making a whoosh sound. This will be for 8 seconds. Remember to keep the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth throughout the exercise.
So I will put that link to this YouTube video in the description box to give them credit for their resource. This is obviously something you can do by yourself without this video or this imagery, but I do sometimes think it's helpful, especially when you're first starting deep breathing, meditations, whatever, to have something to focus on instead of just your breath. But if you want to do it by yourself, typically they suggest doing 3 rounds of it. So again, breathing in for a count of 4, holding it for a count of 7, and breathing out for a count of 8. And repeating it 2 more times. The science behind this is that it actually turns off our parasympathetic nervous system, which is what triggers that fight or flight instinct. And so it then helps reduce our cortisol levels and our stress levels, which can help our body calm down. Now, food and sleep, there are things that we can eat that can help, and there are foods that we can eat that can affect our sleep as well. And so tryptophan-rich foods, the first thing we always think about is turkey and Thanksgiving, but dairy products contain tryptophan, honey, eggs, bananas, a variety of nuts and seeds all contain tryptophan. Whole grains can also help. So thinking of crackers like Triscuits or Wheat Thins, a bowl of cereal, thinking something more whole grain. So like Quaker Oat squares, oatmeal, and popcorn is also a good one. Just watch the butter and the salt. Foods that are harmful, so high-fat foods, fast foods, greasy foods, fried foods. Protein itself is not harmful, but minimize those portions. Having too much can affect our sleep. And then obviously caffeine. So coffee, tea, soda, chocolate has caffeine in it, and medications. So take a look at certain medications you take and see if they contain caffeine, because many do. And alcohol. So what are some good bedtime snack ideas? So a banana with nut butter, oatmeal with berries, yogurt with granola, tart cherries, pistachios, whole grain crackers with some low-fat cheese, whole wheat toast with peanut butter, a cup of cottage cheese, or again, some popcorn. Home popped is better. And that is everything that we have today on improving your sleep. If you're interested in any healthy behavior changes or you have any questions on disease prevention or management, exercise planning, goal setting, that sort of thing, you can contact me. My information is listed down below. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we will see you next month for our talk on stress management techniques.